All right. What'd you think they looked like?
I thought they looked like the best team in the country. I realized who they were playing, but two things that jumped out at me. One, the first thing that jumped out at me was when they started down the field and they had wide open motherfuckers on every down and every play. Every play they ran seemed like it worked. It's the offense that they had last year, and it's the offense I've been looking for. So that was the first thing I noticed. And even though there were a couple of squirrely things on the first drive for Vandy, the second thing I noticed was how overpowering the defense was. And they haven't been like that. And I'm not talking about just they were way better than them. I'm talking about they hit hard. They were on top of people. They looked like they knew what they were doing. And I understand that Vandy is not Georgia or even Texas or, for that matter, Arkansas. But you have to consider, while our game was going on, Northern Illinois was in the process of beating a ranked team. And 2 weeks ago, Vandy went to Northern Illinois and beat them. So, they're not Utah State, and they're not Stetson. They're better than that. I still think they'll probably end up dead last in the SEC, but I like the way we played. I like the emotion we played with and the speed that we played with on offense and defense. As far as it looked like for the first time all year that they all knew what they were supposed to be doing, and they went out and did it. And the hits they delivered on defense were just very impressive. And then the offense with Jacory and two or three of those other guys, they got finally got number three in the offense a little bit, and he was wide open, and him and Bryce Young seemed to be communicating with each other, and he was hitting him rather than overthrowing him. And they did something early on. I think I sent a text out about it because we talked about it last week. They had number one and number two
running two running backs in the same formation,
and they basically were playing what's his name, the guy Jameer, I guess his name is, the guy from Georgia Tech that's such a great running back. They were basically playing him as a wide receiver, like a slot receiver, and then had number two as the running back. But there's a lot of stuff you can do from that formation, and I think it's something that they can do, that they'll throw in there and just do what they're doing with it now. And then if they get into a position at Arkansas or at Tennessee or something where they need, a double wheel route or something crazy that they've probably been working on all year, then I think we'll have it. So, and then when you figure that supposedly our two best receivers, JoJo Earl and the freshman that hadn't played all year, they warmed up and practiced and dressed out and were in a position where they could come play if they needed them to, and they didn't put them in the game. So those were my main impressions of the game. What about you?
I thought that's how we should look.
Okay, I guess I used a lot more words than that, but basically said the same thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the phrase that I've been hearing all weekend is the standard.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, there wasn't a bunch of trash talking. It was come in, do my job, get it done.
Yeah.
And then do it again.
Exactly. I think they're rounding into football shape, into conference play.
I think so.
And I really think with all the weapons that they have, they're going to be able to give a lot of people trouble. After last week, after both games last week, ours and Georgia's. I was really concerned with Georgia, and now I'm not scared of them anymore. They still may beat us. I mean, they're a really good football team. Probably.
Yeah, but who'd they play yesterday? Tulsa.
Tulsa, who's really not a bad team.
Not a bad team, but neither is Texas. And Tulsa put up 22 against them, and Texas put up 19. That's my parallel I see with Georgia right now at this point in the season with them is Texas and Tulsa.
Yeah.
And even though Texas played us a lot closer defensively, yeah.
Yeah, I think our defense is not getting a lot of credit for how good they are right now, even though, because the offense hadn't been as good as everybody thought it was going to be. But the defense is as good as anybody in the country, including Georgia.
Right.
They basically shut down everybody they played, when you think about it. Texas got a little bit going, and they had a home field advantage, and they had a couple of big breaks, and they got some turnovers, and they still managed to lose the game to us, just like they did at Texas Tech this past weekend. But, they didn't do anything to us. None of the other teams we played did anything to us. And Vandy, got the field goal, and that was pretty much it for them.
Yeah.
And I saw something. I saw 2 or 3 new wrinkles. The 2 running backs in the backfield at the same time, and I don't know. I can't remember now what they called it. They had a formation. They've evidently got a third guy that they bred in the factory with along with 31 and the other guy, number 15.
Right.
They now have 3 of those guys. They got a third guy that they can bring in, and they got all 3 of them that are basically all 3 edge rushers. Right. And they bring them in for pass downs, and you're not stopping all of them. You're probably not going to stop,
You're doing good if you stop one.
Yeah. So, I like that. And like I said, the offense they ran with all the people that, all the different guys that were open, and the fact that almost every play that they ran, I read something yesterday, and maybe it was this morning on the internet, on the AL.com page. It's my version. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but in the old days, on Sunday mornings, I'd either go to Ricky's or go to Daddy's, and we'd get a copy of the local newspaper, and we'd sit out on the back porch and drink coffee and read the paper and see what all the news articles said about our football team. And so my version of that now is to come upstairs with my coffee, get on the internet and go to AL.com and read all the different articles about Alabama. It's basically the same stuff, but it's the same idea. But there was one article that I read that talked about how in more than half of the time, Bryce Young would changed the play from he said they were trying to run the ball, but when Vandy would crowd the line, he would change that to a pass. So basically everything they were doing was basically on the fly. And all the receivers were involved. The offensive line was ready. They had everything they needed to do. And they just clicked a lot like they did last year and the year before last when Mac Jones was quarterback. I mean, the Mac Jones year was basically the first year where we had – I know Tua was great, and he had a lot of weapons, and they did some wild stuff. And, Jalen Hurts was his own thing. But Mac Jones brought a precision there to where almost every pass he threw was perfect, and there were guys wide open, and he found the guy, changed the play to get the right play called and threw it to the right guy. And Bryce Young did that last year almost to perfection. Of course, he had 2 guys that could outrun anybody on any defense that were always getting behind people. And we had 2 or 3 of those yesterday. I think he overthrew one of them. But other than that, we ran the offense that we were running at midseason last year.
Right.
Now I want to see. I'm really looking forward to next week because we're playing a team better than anybody we've played so far. It appears, and B, we're going to be playing them in their place, and it's going to be hostile, and we're going to have to live with that. So I want to see how we play against Arkansas before I start wondering how good they can really be. But I was really blown away by the improvement that happened in basically a week's time. I thought they looked really good last week, but I didn't think they had that much speed in their defense and that much aggression in their defense. And I didn't think they had, 2 or 3 guys open on every play in their offense last week, although they really outclassed who they played. So this week was a bit of a surprise. I thought they would, get that many points close to that many points on Vandy. And they really weren't trying to get that many points. The last touchdown was they were running the clock out. And
well, yeah, it just happened.
I know. By the way, did you see and I can't remember the 2 teams. There were 2 Division III teams, or I don't know what division they were in. It played last night, and it was a 98-0 football game.
No, I didn't see those.
It was interesting for one thing. I saw